welcome back to the channel. I'm always looking to go faster and look good if possible. But trying to go faster usually just comes down to the basics. More power or less weight. And if you're lucky enough, a combination of both. You all know that I changed the battery to lithium ion in the Mercy from Antigravity batteries. And I'm very happy with the way the batteries responded to the car. All the data that I collected have showed that there are no real essential problems with it, and the battery has held up really well. As all this continues on, we just keep looking at this. So I'm going to go ahead and pull apart the front of the car, which will also show all of you how to change the battery. And I'll weigh everything so we can see the weight advantage of going with the anti-gravity battery. Get in to change that lithium ion battery, I wanted to see what I'm up against. So unfortunately I couldn't find any real good documentation. So then I started thinking maybe Lambo made an accommodation inside the hood, and lo and behold they did. We can take a look at that here. You can see that they have a T right here. One leg goes over to the other jet and one leg comes to here. But when I lightly pulled on it using the pick, it actually disconnected from this jet. So it occurs to me that you could probably pull this down, disconnect if you wanted to on this side, or pull it through like I did and just cut the zip tie right there to remove the line. That of course would free what's going down to the hood. So, my trusty assistant has come to give me a hand. I'm gonna get ready to pull the hood. I've never pulled the hood before, but standard procedure. Typically I will mark to index the nuts to make the positioning of the hood faster when I go back on. So I just take a Sharpie and circle the nut. Okay, let me see if I can go ahead and pull the gas strut off. Now I will pull the nuts on Drew's side and pull the two nuts on my side, and we'll see if we can pull the hood off. Okay, the next thing is to go ahead and pull the trunk out. But in order to do that, there are 4 Torx 30 screws. I'll just point them out real quick. There's one right there, and on the back side, 2 there. All right, so there you can see we have the connector there. Slide back the tab, rock it, pull it out. There we go. Now to my knowledge, the trunk should be free and clear. So we'll go ahead and give it a shot and see what happens. Now that the front trunk is out, we can get a good look of what's going on inside the SV in the front. And there's a lot of stuff. Take a look at this. Right here would appear to be the supercapacitor. I'm just going by that because the whole warning about getting shocked, possibly kill you. Right here we have the pump for the front lift. And of course the battery. You can see it is very tight in there on both sides. Now again, before I ordered the battery and worked with Antigravity, we did as much research as possible to avoid having to ship batteries back and forth, but I don't like to have the cars apart any longer than I have to. Now, the other thing is that all the information that we found between the two of us looked like the battery would be an H8 size. But after talking to my friends at Lamborghini Beverly Hills, they advised me to use an H6, which I had an H6 sent here. The problem is now that everything is apart, it's actually an H5. So they sent me another battery, and they're so nice to me. I really appreciate them always helping me out. I have no idea why this is always such an issue, but the battery size, at least in my SV, is an H5 for all of you that are wondering. So if you look back in the hole there, you can see the battery hold down. The battery hold down looks like it takes a 13mm, so I'll go ahead and remove that and see if we can't get the battery out. All right, and here we go. There's a hold down. With the hold down on the passenger side out, you can see right here that there is a hold down that's tied into the bracket that holds down our friend, the supercapacitor. There are 2 bolts underneath that I'm gonna try and pull. Looks like I can use a 13mm socket to pull those out and see if I can pull this bracket. With that bracket out, hopefully I can disconnect the battery cables and pull the battery out. And there we go. On the SV, there is always some sort of myth about the supercapacitor. And to be honest with you, I have no idea because this is the only car I have with a supercapacitor. And I can't even really get a straight answer as to exactly how it works. What I've been told is that if the battery goes dead, it drains the supercapacitor next. And if you want to start the car, you're screwed. This was told me from JP. Because they transport these things, they see a lot more than even the dealer sees. So I'm not 100% sure, but judging off of that information, I would think that the car will still have power even with the battery disconnected. And I've heard stories that the car needs to be reprogrammed if the battery's changed. All this I don't know, but I do have a Leonardo to cover myself if there's a problem. I don't want to try and power the car and have live cables while I'm pulling them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a 10mm open-end box. I'm gonna try and remove the cables and first see if I can get the battery out. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to see if there's any power on those cables, just to make sure. Okay, so there's not even 1 volt in the system. With the battery out, you can get a real good view of what's actually going on back there. Check this out, this is fairly interesting. Back there, if you can see it, the bracket work right there is opened up just to accommodate the battery, which is something that I don't come across very often. Now for the all-important part. With the factory AGM battery out, I can take the lithium-ion anti-gravity battery and put it on the scales. So you can take a good look here at the factory battery versus the lithium-ion anti-gravity battery. The anti-gravity battery is an H5, so it is very close in dimension to the SV factory battery. The hope, of course, is that we'll go right in and all will be smooth. Otherwise, I'll have to make some minor adjustments to make it fit. But most importantly, weight savings. Let's take a look at what the computer has to say. Okay, so if we take a look there, we can see that the factory SV battery weighs 39 pounds and the anti-gravity lithium-ion battery only weighs 15 pounds. But sometimes what really matters is a real-world test. So I've enlisted the help of Drew to help me check the weight of the batteries. Let's see what she has to say, as she is the ultimate critic on weight. Say hello, my dear.
Hi.
Okay, all right, so what we have here is, right here we have the original battery out of the SV. Go ahead and pick that up and tell us what you think about that weight.
Okay. That's pretty heavy.
Okay, we got that reaction. Let's go ahead and check out the new anti-gravity battery that's going into the car.
Whoa, actually, it's not bad at all.
Well, there you have it. A third party that really has no bias either way. In fact, she probably doesn't like the anti-gravity battery because, of course, it is slightly more in the cost department, which means that funds is diverted away from her into my car stuff. All right, so here we go, and man, this is just a lot better. Okay, on my SV, there's one thing that needs to be addressed. May or may not be an issue for you, but take a look at this. Right there, you can see the front lift pump. There is no clearance between the battery because the H5 is just slightly bigger than what was in there. So whether or not it's just my car, it is something to look at when you put yours together. How I'm going to address that is just simply loosen up the mounting bolts to the pump along with this clamp and just slide it over just a little bit to get clearance. I actually moved over the bracket as far as I could that holds down the supercapacitor and one side of the battery. Even with doing that and slightly moving over the front lift pump, I had a clearance problem. This tab actually rubs against the front lift pump, so I will go ahead and cut that off. You can see here, all is good. I was able to get everything in. Here you can get a good look at everything in place. My friends at Anti-Gravity Batteries were nice enough to supply me with a battery tracker, which, as you could see, is of huge benefit on the SV because seeing that the battery is behind the trunk, I really don't feel like pulling the hood and the trunk every time I want to check the battery. And seeing that they have never had anyone put a lithium ion in an SV with a supercapacitor, it is a great idea to have the tracker on there. That way I can find out exactly what's going on. All right, here we go with the trunk. All right, we'll take a look over here. I'm sure most of you know this, but don't forget to hook up the harness. Press the Torx 30, send down the 4 bolts that hold down the trunk. All right, so I got it lined up as good as I could. Hopefully everything will work. Just a tip, if you notice my screw up there, the gas shock was actually behind the hood, so I'd actually pull it up again. If you're putting it back together, just make sure, leave the gas shock towards the front, and life will be much better. All right, let's give it a shot. Okay, so I took this off so I could take off my windshield wiper arm, and looks like it caused another problem because I didn't get it back in just right, so I've got a clearance problem to the hood. Luckily Drew with her eagle eyes was able to catch it. I need to back it off and try and readjust. Okay, so when the hood goes back on, same thing as when you're doing any body work. I'm just checking the gap distance all around here. Everything looks good. There we go. Let's take a look. Yep. It's a moment of truth. The anti-gravity battery's in there. I'm really excited about that. But am I going to be able to fire? And am I going to see some sort of crazy check engine light or some other problem? Let's find out. Oh, very good news. No check engine light. I'm not going to get any sort of crazy warning that something needs to be reprogrammed. Go ahead and take a look. Okay, everything's looking solid. Good times, ready to roll. So now the all-important test drive. Let's take it out and see what happens. See what Drew's final thoughts are.
So basically, it's a 38% savings here in weight.
I don't know, I'm not that smart. You're the accountant in the family, so that would make sense why you know.
There's gotta be a drawback. With the weight savings, it doesn't make as much power, right?
Well, I know it makes more power, but I don't know the numbers, and we don't want to give them any false information. Why don't you check the batteries out and see what you see?
Okay, so for this one, the anti-gravity battery, looks like there's a 1500 cranking amps. Whereas the other one appears to say 640. So thinking when you put this in the Porsche, I should be able to feel some difference, right?
You see how Drew does that? It always kind of ends up going back to one of her cars or some sort of LV bag. Yes, in Drew's car it will definitely help because it looks like I'm going to have to purchase one for her Porsche as well. In her 997S, to answer her question, the 2 main benefits for me are acceleration and handling. And a distant third would be braking, probably more important to her. But other than that, you can see that she does like the battery, especially since I'm buying it.